NFL analyst Mike Francessa has urged the New York Jets to fire Robert Saleh amidst all the struggles with the team going 2-3, and many Jets fans are in agreement right here because this has been an ugly start to the season and another bad loss against the Minnesota Vikings that happened just a few hours ago, and we're going to break it all down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into the video as always, because as we all know, the New York Jets went out to London, and they lost, and it was not a great game. Started abysmally. Jets started to come back a bit. Aaron Rodgers threw multiple interceptions, ton of bad plays, more problems with not getting the ball snapped in time. Just a ton of bad stuff happened that made the Jets look like they're an incoherent team that doesn't understand what they're doing with each other. And Mike Francessa put all Jets fans' kind of thoughts into a perfect quote, saying, "It all leads to the same place. You put the offense in the hands of a man in Hackett who's completely inept. I know that despite his lousy record and despite the fact that he has taken this team right down the chute, you could just see it. And I'm telling you, if I were the owner, Saleh wouldn't be the coach anymore in season. I can't look at it anymore. I just can't watch the same garbage week in and week out. There has to be a new order for this team. There has to be an accountability for this team." And I mean, that's absolutely correct. Look, the Jets need to go out there and they need to make some sort of energy change to their team. Things are not great right now. It feels more important than ever to go out there and make that Devontae Adams trade, Matt. Just a rough week.
Yeah, so Chris, I really enjoyed reading this article, and I thought there was a lot of stuff that I agreed with because it does feel like we're seeing the same thing every single week from this offense and from this team. The Jets have been high in penalties from week 1 all the way through week 5. They commit way too many penalties. That's on the coach. The false starts, the delay of games are just, it's crazy how often they're happening. And we got down to the 1 yard line this week again and again. We got moved back to the 6 because we couldn't get the ball snapped in time. And that's just ridiculous. That happened last week as well. It's extremely frustrating to watch, and it doesn't really make any sense. And Nathaniel Hackett, he uses some of the lowest percentage of motion pre-snap, which makes it easier for the defense to set up and to understand what the Jets are doing on offense. And it just makes the Jets too easy to figure out how to defend them. And we're seeing somehow the receivers are still not on the same page with Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is just that far ahead of all the wide receivers because he must just be on like a different plane of thinking from the other wide receivers, because that interception at the end of the game was so frustrating because it looked like Mike Williams was not looking for the ball at the time when he needs to be looking for the ball, which resulted in the interception. Aaron Rodgers said he underthrew the pass, but maybe it was underthrown, maybe it wasn't. But what I do know is Mike Williams looked at the last second, so he didn't have any time to adjust to the pass that was thrown to him, and it is getting really annoying to see. And he's talking about taking accountability. And it does feel like after every game, Coach Robert Saleh is saying the same things on the media, to the media, on the podium. And I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sure you're sick of hearing it. I'm sure Jets fans are sick of hearing it. It's just the same stuff every week. It's not really answers. It's just, we'll get it figured out. We'll figure out how to do that. We'll figure this out, figure that out. And then nothing has changed so far. So he said in the article, talking about taking accountability as well, and that is something that really needs to happen on this team, because it feels like whenever someone makes a mistake, it feels like Coach Saleh is there to kind of coddle them, and he's there. Then he's always just there he pats him on the back. You can read his lips saying like that was okay when Braylon Allen had that really bad drop in the first quarter, and you see other coaches getting in the face of their players, and some players are getting yelled at and after they make a mistake, and that never happens to any of the Jets players, and I'm not really sure why. And I'm not saying you have to yell at every guy and make it miserable for every player after they make a mistake, but when guys aren't afraid to make mistakes, you end up with games like today where there wasn't one huge mistake that sunk the Jets. They said it on the broadcast, and they put it really well, where it felt like every Jets player was taking their turns, making a small mistake, and those mistakes added up and then cascaded into that monster 17-0 hole to a Vikings team that was 4-0. They were playing really good football, but they didn't look like a 4-0 team that game. The pitch to Chandler, I think it was, which was picked up by Quincy Williams, almost returned for a touchdown. That was they tried to give that away. They went for a fourth down. That was another turnover for the Jets. Sam Darnold overthrew a pass. That was another opportunity for the Jets to cut into the lead and to really win that game. But the problem was, like you said, they started to make a comeback because in the second half, the Jets outplayed the Vikings. But it doesn't matter because the first half was so bad that they just had too big of a hole to dig themselves out of. And it's really, really, really getting frustrated. Chris, I'm getting really sick of watching what feels like the same thing week in and week out.
Yeah, it really does feel like every week is the same issues. They don't seem like they're being coached well. Like, if you're having the same problem over and over again and everyone has to complain about accountability, it's a problem the same way that I'm constantly complaining about people subscribing to the channel. No, I did not forget to do that today. Yes, I did. But that's not the point, guys. Obviously, we got over 5%, so Matt's not going to get punched in the face by Alex Pereira. So good news there. But, guys, speaking on the New York Jets, it's just... It actually feels like the definition of insanity. Like, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working. And the same thing, unfortunately, is let's make a ton of mistakes. Like, it's not even like a real system. I don't understand what the New York Jets' plans are. It seems like Aaron Rodgers is on a completely different planet than the coaches entirely. It feels like no one's on the same page. And no one's been like, it's on me, this is my fault. It's the whole accountability problem, and accountability has been talked about so much. As mentioned by Quincy Williams, he said people got to start taking accountability. People get tired of hearing the same thing every week. Now, Matt, I'm curious. Who do you think he aimed that at?
I mean, I think he's talking about the whole team when it comes to taking accountability because, and it's not a problem to me that people aren't taking accountability because I think it's more that second line where he said, can you pull it up one more time? Can you pull up that graphic one more time?
Absolutely can, yeah.
So he said that people are tired of hearing the same thing every week. And that's going back to what we said about Coach Saleh, where it feels like he says the same thing every week. So I feel like Saleh isn't putting the players in the position to even take accountability because he's talking like there's nothing really wrong. And he's not I'm not saying a coach isn't supposed to come out and blame players, but he needs to he's got to tell players that they're not playing well enough because right now on the sideline, he's way too relaxed. He's way too laid back. And it's nothing is changing because players, they're not being told that they need to change. So why would they change? It's just, we saw Aaron Rodgers come out today. He said that was not up to his standard. So he was taking accountability, but it's not enough because it feels like it's the same thing every single week.
It just feels like there's no winning culture with this team at all, outside of the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a longtime winner. Saleh comes from the 49ers, who were winning. It's just outright strange the way that the Jets have seemingly done this complete turnaround, yet somehow there's still this dark cloud hanging over them. I honestly think that obviously Robert Saleh is not the long-term answer. I think after this season, he'll most likely be getting fired. He's not getting fired in the season. You mentioned this a few videos back. It never really works out. But Jets fans want Robert Saleh out of there. So on the article that Mike Francessa was quoted on, when the fans were asked about it, you could see it right here. Should they fire them both? Should they fire just one of them? Or should they keep them both? 78% said fire them both. Now, obviously, this is after a tough loss. If there's ever going to be a time where it's going to be like, hey, fire everyone, it is after a loss, after starting 2-3 on the season in a year where you were supposed to win the AFC East. I mean, it seems like there's not too many people who are going to be supporting Nathaniel Hackett at this point. I don't see why anyone would. I don't get why we've come on YouTube repeatedly and had to consistently say, why is the ball not getting snapped in time? Why are we having clock issues? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so talking about firing the coach in the middle of the season, it never seems to work out when teams do that. But this team, the fact that it looks like the same thing every week, I almost think that maybe that type of changeup and shakeup for the offense is what this team does need. Because I don't know who would even be calling the plays at that point, which would be the problem. But it's not good because when you fire the head coach, a lot of the times that interim head coach comes in and they win the first game, but then the rest of the season looks really bad. And Chris, a reason why there is a little bit of hope still to be had is the rest of the AFC East is not having the best year right now. I don't know if you've noticed, but Tua not playing. Josh Allen, they lost again today. So with that in mind, the Jets are next Monday, week 6, Monday Night Football. Jets are home versus the Buffalo Bills, and the winner of that game actually takes the division lead in the AFC East. So as bad as the Jets have looked, they can still make a season out of this. They can still win the AFC East and make a run at a potential Super Bowl. But they need Davante Adams, because if Alan Lazard can have just a little bit of connection with Aaron Rodgers and he looks like that, imagine what Davante Adams would look like in a Jets uniform.
Especially when most of the Jets players seemingly are not on the same page as Rodgers. Though it is important to note, Garrett Wilson had his best game with Rodgers as his QB throughout these few games that they've played together. It's been 5. No one's counting those 2 plays from last year. And it's this situation where hopefully Garrett's going to get on the right page with him. Obviously, both Rodgers and Wilson and the whole team understand the importance between them getting a good connection, but it feels like bringing in Adams would also not only just shift things in the sense of, all right, well, now we have a guy who has this phenomenal connection with Aaron Rodgers. It's also someone who knows how to win, has been in big games, has performed in big games. It just makes sense to go out there and trade for him very soon. It feels like it's inevitable that they're going to also because of this.
Yeah, hopefully. But Chris, one thing, looking at this offense, it's so frustrating because the lack of chemistry that Aaron Rodgers has with the wide receivers, it makes me think, what are they even doing at practice? Like, how do they not look better than this? I'm not saying there can't be any mental breakdowns like that, but at the end of the game against the Broncos and the Vikings, there are so many plays where it's first and second down, Aaron Rodgers throws it into space, and the guy's not even looking, or the guy's running a completely different route. And I don't know what they're doing at practice. They have to get figured out. They are out of time. Next week, we have a chance to get bailed out and take the lead back in the AFC East, because fortunately, we don't have a powerhouse in the AFC East. Maybe the Bills start playing better. Maybe the Dolphins get Tua back. They start playing better. But at the moment right now, the AFC East is still very gettable, and we need the chemistry to develop right now because we're out of time, Chris.
I absolutely agree. Guys, let us know what you think down below. Like this video. Turn on post notifications, all that good stuff. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your parents to subscribe. Tell your grandmother to subscribe. Tell your dog to make a YouTube channel and subscribe. Whatever works, get us to 1,000. Have a great day, guys, and go Jets. We'll be back.